Can you move the sun? This was the deep and urgent question my 4-year-old son interrupted his conversation with his little brother to ask me while we were sitting in line, waiting in the drive-thru for my much-needed cup of coffee. You see, my son didn't want the sun in his eyes anymore, and somehow he believed that I had the strength to move it. For that moment, he believed that I was more powerful than any god, goddess, or favorite superhero. He believed in my capabilities, and that gave me a renewed sense of confidence in myself. We assume it is our responsibility to teach our children how to live and succeed. But what if they were actually responsible for guiding and developing us? Would we be better for it? The answer is yes. So why am I here talking to you about children? I am not a teacher, doctor, or a psychologist. But I am a mom to 2 young kids, a corporate leader, and founder of 2 companies focused on empowering young people. And I have spent much of the past decade coaching and mentoring diverse students and professionals on what I think it takes to be successful. I believe that we should all channel our kid courage to thrive in college, work, and beyond. And by kid courage, I'm talking about 3 things. 1, the courage to be creative. 2, the courage to be confident. And 3, the courage to connect. And if we unlock our kid courage, there is no stopping us. Let's talk about kid courage lesson number 1, creativity. Now, creativity is necessary when we think about progress and innovation across all industries. It's new ideas which have allowed us to be in the era of driverless cars, to predict healthcare outcomes using advanced data analytics, and turn heaps of plastic waste in our ocean into everything from clothing to furniture. So if innovation is necessary to advance our society, then probably we should be really in touch with our creative sides, right? Wrong. We are way, way, way out of touch. In fact, NASA conducted a study about a person's creative potential. And they engaged 1,600 young children. And they found that 98% of them score at the creative genius level. Why? Because they have something called divergent thinking, which essentially means they don't see limits to their ideas. They're not bound by concepts such as right and wrong. However, when they conducted the same test with adults, only 2% of us scored at the same level. In case you're struggling with the math, this means that we are 96% less creative than our childhood selves. I know, your self-esteem may have just taken a hit, but I assure you, it gets worse. A famous experiment called the Spaghetti Marshmallow Tower Challenge has been conducted all over the world. And the point is to take a few pieces of uncooked spaghetti, some string, and some tape, and build a freestanding tower and gently place the marshmallow on top and hope that it doesn't come crumbling down. Now, I participated while I was getting my MBA. And if you know anything about MBA students, we are competitive, and we like to win and succeed. But almost all of us failed. Worse, we learned that there's one group that out-consistently performs, not only MBA students, but also CEOs. You're looking at them. Kindergartners. Why? Because their minds are open to any possibility. They make more prototypes in the same amount of time, and they don't let the potential that they could fail prevent them from attempting a solution. Now, it's helpful to have NASA and the Spaghetti Marshmallow Tower Challenge studies to support a point about a kid's creative potential. But the truth is, I didn't need them. Just take the example of my toddler, Darius. One weekend, we were home relaxing, and I assumed he was just quietly playing nearby. But come to find out, this little child of mine was busy innovating. You see, he wanted to watch cartoons on TV, and the option to sit on the floor, it just wasn't cutting it for him. So he decided to improve his vantage point. A chair on top of a table was key to achieving this. As you can see, my toddler has fully embraced divergent thinking because gravity definitely did not apply in his situation. And my older son, Zamir, who's now a kindergartner, shows me his limitless creativity on a daily basis. He loves puzzles, and he's really good at them. 100, 200, 500, 700 pieces. He is up for the challenge. Now, when he first started attempting these puzzles, I would intervene to show him what I thought was the right way, starting from the corners and edges and working our way in. But he found his own process. He prefers to start in the middle with the focal point and work his way out. And as you can see, his process seems to be working just fine, and he didn't need any of my help. And even when he would complete these complex puzzles, he would flip them over and do them the other way. You know, the side with no pictures and just the cardboard? And when I asked him why, he responded as most kids his age do, and he said, "Why not?" I have seen the gift that children have to approach the world in a truly unfiltered way. Now imagine if each of us brings this limitless creativity to our jobs, we may just discover the next breakthrough innovation in education, healthcare, or technology. Kid Courage lesson number 2 is about confidence. Now, there's plenty of research that shows that we adults struggle with confidence, and this is particularly true for women and people of color, who I've had the most experience working with in my professional career. 84% of women say that they feel uncomfortable talking about their professional and personal accomplishments. In fact, we despise this so much, a third of us would rather go to the dentist. But you know who isn't struggling with their confidence? You guessed it, young kids. Earlier this year, my son, Zamir, the kindergartner, said to me completely unsolicited, "Mom, I am really great at smelling." Smelling? I laughed, but I went along with his revelation, and I asked him, "What else are you really great at?" Now, in all honesty, I wasn't expecting much of a response, but instead, without hesitation, he responded with soccer, running fast, protecting his little brother, and of course, puzzles. Now, you may be thinking that my kid has an especially unique sense of self-confidence, and before I try to persuade you otherwise, I want you to spend a few moments thinking about your own confidence. So think right now about the things you are really great at that you would feel comfortable sharing with the strangers around you or via social media. Okay, everyone ready? Don't stress, I'm not actually going to make you do this. But probably many of us felt just a little bit squirmish at the thought of this. I wanted to test if young children really do possess a greater sense of self-confidence. And so I enlisted the help of a few early education experts. And we brought together children from diverse backgrounds across Texas and Massachusetts. We gave them each 30 seconds to tell us all the things they are great at. On average, each child listed 3 positive attributes. Across all backgrounds, the majority of children said that they felt really good talking about themselves. Interestingly, girls were more likely to say that they felt good compared to boys, and underrepresented minorities more likely to say that they felt good than their white peers. My favorite strength was shared by a little Hispanic boy in Texas who said he loves science and one day he's going to be a scientist. So for all of you out there who might be an underrepresented individual in STEM today, keep going and pushing ahead so that little boy can see that there are role models that he can look up to. What I want us to take away is that children might have the same anxiety and fear of rejection that we adults do, but they don't let this overtake them. Remember this fact the next time you are asked to talk about your own value. The third and final lesson on Kid Courage is around connection. And by connection, I'm talking about the absolute root of connection, empathy. Now, with everything that we've been through over the past 2 years related to social injustice, our society feels fragmented, tense, and at times hopeless. And this has carried over to the workplace as well. 85% of employees report that their employers lack empathy. And the pandemic that we're still living through has certainly highlighted the negative consequences of not having those personal interactions in our lives. So while we adults and corporations are struggling to connect, once again, children are leading the way. I'll give you another example from my toddler, Darius. Just a few weeks ago, we were visiting my mom, his grandmother, and she had a major health setback, and she was unable to tie her shoes. Darius immediately went over to offer his help. As you can see here, my toddler wears Velcro shoes. He has no idea how to tie shoes. But this didn't stop him from offering his support. Not that long ago, we were out at a restaurant, and he heard a baby crying nearby, which prompted him to stop what he was doing, raise his arms up, and to say, "Deep breath," in hopes that the baby would calm down. Now, it's not just my kid who's especially kind and concerned about the well-being of others. Research shows that young children are about as helpful as human beings ever get. Why? Because they don't have the mental complexity to think about whether or not to act. They just do. But this same intrinsic behavior to offer support was missed by many in our schools, our workplaces, and our overall society, to check in with our Black and brown communities after the death of George Floyd, or our Asian communities after the racial attacks targeting these groups. So whether you want to improve how you engage your customers or your employees, to address social injustice, or simply strengthen the relationships with the people in your everyday lives, connection is necessary. And a failure to demonstrate it has undeniable consequences, both personally and professionally. We all face challenges in our lives. The next time you are faced with a difficult situation, I urge you to pause and take a deep breath, as my toddler would say. Channel your kid courage. Ask yourself, what would a child do? Would they have the courage to be creative, to propose a new idea, or take a risk? Would they have the courage to be confident, to ask for that next project, promotion, or pay raise? Would they have the courage to connect, to help a friend, a colleague, or even a stranger? And sprinkle your kid courage like magical fairy dust everywhere you go. Remind your team members and your mentees of their value, especially those who are underrepresented in fields such as STEM and entrepreneurship. Use your seat at the table to advocate for those from marginalized groups. And remind your own children of their power and learn from them. Here's the thing about Kid Courage. It's about changing your mindset from what could happen if you fail to focusing on what could happen if you succeed and all of the beautiful lessons you will learn even if you don't. We were all children once, which means we already have everything within us to be effective, productive, and successful. And if we channel our kid courage, we may just move the sun. Thank you.